Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate. Thank you all so very much for joining us tonight. We have an amazing episode here for you. We are doing a deck tech. Yes, we're back with another deck tech. This one's a little bit different. I know you've seen some Rey before, and no, this is not a Rey Data Vault deck tech, so don't worry. You don't have to sit through another 20 minutes of us talking about Data Vault like we had for the past couple episodes. But tonight we're going to be doing a Rey Security Complex deck that Alex built and do a little bit of a deck tech in case you're interested in playing it. All right, welcome, Alex. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good. I'm ready, I guess.
So you picked Security Complex. So Alex has brought this list to us. This is something he has championed himself. I have never personally played this list, but I approve because it has Hondo in it, and that's like my favorite character ever. So outside of Darth Bane, I guess. But like, so it's super awesome that we got Hondo in this deck. And I guess tell us a little bit about what led you, why you're using Security Complex versus like Colossus. So tell us a little bit.
Right. So I'm like, well, Hondo's cool, I guess. I should probably figure out a deck for him. And Nebula Ignition, because I also think that's funny. And then I'm just like, oh, I could just play Rey, like a mono blue Rey. Seems fine. You know, restores a lot. And then I'm just like, well, 30 health. I restore a lot. Maybe I can go to Security Complex, and that should be fine. And that'd be really annoying with all the Sentinels in here to give them shields. I also considered Colossus, and then I'm just like, that seems a little excessive, I guess. I don't know. Like 35 health with a lot of healing. Sure, it would last, but why? I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's like missing the extra card at the beginning felt a little bit off, but Security Complex just hobbles so many things more than like having the extra 10 health. Especially because I wanted to mess around with a bunch of stuff for Hondo, right? So just throwing out another shield in there seemed really interesting to me.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit of like, it gives you some stuff that you might not be able to get in other decks just because of the fact that you get that. It is a tempo disruption, but at the same time, like it stops them from doing like ECLing crap into you, you know, and something like that because you have a shield now.
I have done things like I haven't used Security Complex yet, so when I draw my redemption, I just put a shield on that.
Yep.
And that's just really hard for your opponents to deal with. I have had an opponent play like a Poe unit, and then I triple shielded a Village Protector, so he couldn't actually kill it with Poe. Using both the upgrade removal and the 2 damage. And I upgraded it with Rey, so it was up to 3. So if he had to swing in with Poe, I can swing back and actually kill the Poe with the Village Protector. So that was the main line for that.
That's crazy. So before we actually look at the deck, we are going to look at the deck in just a second. But before we look at the deck, can you tell us a little bit about the style of play? Is this like a control deck? Is this like a mid-range deck? Are you a weird aggro deck that doesn't make any sense?
It doesn't hit quite hard enough for like aggro, because pretty much everything until late game swings for 3 because of Rey. But it's more of like, I'm not sure how to describe it. It's kind of like a little bit of a tempo-y. It's like it just snowballs, right? Because the units are really sticky and resilient. So it's more like, oh, I'm swinging in for 6 a turn. Eventually, you're gonna lose. I'll try to speed out up when I can by like dropping Lukes and stuff. But that, it doesn't swing really hard. It just outlasts a lot of things. Yeah, and so you have a second win con of Mill with Vigilance, I guess, too.
Yeah, you have like, it almost kind of feels like it's a mid-range tempo deck that can switch on demand if it needs to, just to be mean. And it's funny because people have been running Data Vault Rey, right? And like I played against Data Vault Rey a bunch recently. Like it just seems everybody wants to play Data Vault Rey. And like that, like you like they can repopulate the board, but if you could just wipe the board and keep it, secure, then it doesn't matter. This deck, you don't actually have to worry about that. Like I bet you this probably has an edge going into secure a data or a Ray Data Vault just because of the extra shielding and the Hondo just being able to give the middle finger, you know.
Hondo is so funny in this deck. But we'll get to that. But yeah, it's just it disrupts enough just by having your units stick around that like eventually you just kind of wear down your opponent enough that you can win. I don't know. It's hard to describe because like it's not a control deck. There's a lot of like control-y things you can do. You know, it's main decking like Rivals Fall, right? But it's not like I don't have takedowns main board, right? It's not like explicitly control. It's more of like we're gonna just kind of grind this out, but I'm gonna restore 5 a turn and dole out 6 damage and try to keep up. It snowballs.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we let's take a look at the deck.
Yeah, so this is just mono Blu-ray. I went with Security Complex, obviously, so let's get into it. It is a triple of the not pilot R2D2. It's just a solid first turn play. Just having a 2/5 is kind of rough. It's got triple Hera pilot, triple Queel, triple the Restored Arc, triple the Concord Dawn Interceptors, triple the Red Squadron X-Wings, triple Village Protectors, triple Yoda, double Equalize, triple Hondo, double Fel the Dragon, triple Vigilance, double Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, triple Bendu, triple Cargo Juggernaut, double Rivals, triple Luke, double Redemption, and double Nebula Ignition, which is hilarious. In the side, you have double Confiscate, double Perilous, a third copy of Fel the Dragon, double Takedown, a third Redemption, and double Zillow Beast, which is also really funny.
Yeah. That does silly things.
Nobody expects you to just drop a Zillow Beast because everyone forgets about it because no one plays it. But if you're going against like a later game mid-range thing, like Anakin Red, right, like Colossus Anakin kind of thing, you just drop a Zillow Beast and they just don't really have too many outs for it.
Yeah, that's crazy though. So if you have the Zillow Beast on the side, you have the extra redemption on the side, which makes kind of makes sense. You have 2 confiscates on the side, but you don't have any restock. Do you not want like 1 restock just for poops and giggles in case you run into other control?
I considered it, and then like that was just one of the cards that ended up getting cut.
Gotcha.
Because I'm just like, there is a possibility I run into control, but I also have Vigilance, which also play for cheaper than them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more likely that I can mill them out before they can mill me out, kind of thing. That was it in theory. I don't know. I didn't have the spot for restock. I'd rather have the couple extra control cards, like the Perilous and the takedowns and the confiscates are really good into like more aggro-y things, more like Vader things. So it's like, well, this is very good into aggro, but sometimes you just need something a little bit to control it a little bit better. And pilots are a little bit not like super rough for this to deal with, but kind of annoying. So that's what the confiscates are there for, mostly.
Yeah, like the Chewbacca's are not super fun to deal with. There you go. Yeah,
that's one of the reasons. I love siding in the confiscates and then hitting them with Queel, because there was one game in the tournament that I played over at Star Showdown where I was 2 for 5 on Queel.
Oh,
in a mono blue deck. I hit both my R2D2s at the time because I sided 1 out, and then a confiscate. Mm-hmm. Because that's my luck. That's how I usually do it.
So let's talk a little bit about the key cards for the deck. You have a couple of cards that are really key. Obviously, like Village Protectors is key, right? Like that's
I mean, it slows everything down, right? Like,
yeah.
And then you can operate them with Ray, mm-hmm. right? Because I'm actually not using Ray's ability too frequently. It more plays on the curve, which is really kind of awkward for a Ray deck. But like eventually, like you'll hit some resources where you're just like, yeah, I'm going to Ray ability here because obviously that's really good. But yeah, I mean, the Village Protectors slow everything down. You can give them a shield with Security Complex, and that really infuriates people. After they already popped the shield, you put 1 back on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Hondo, I kind of wanted to feature him. Hondo's really silly in this deck. 4 cost, 3/5 shielded. on attack, you can take control of a non-pilot upgrade and attach it to a different eligible unit. So that means all the experience with Rey, I can shift around with Hondo. So I can like start leeching it off other units and putting it on Hondo to swing harder, and then use Rey's ability to resupply the experience tokens. Go on.
Okay, so all right, so I can see that, especially if you put one on a village protector, take it, they hit the shield, you take it off with Hondo, put it on you, and then the next turn all you have to do is just give it back to them.
Yeah.
Again, and then if they or if somebody crazily has another shield, like a guard deck or something, you could just steal that guard shield and be like, yeah, guess what, guys?
But yes, also Hondo works very offensively, kind of like that. At the Source Showdown, my first matchup was against Data Vault Luke, so Luke can't use his ability because I'm just stealing those shields with Hondo. There's been a couple times playing against the Beam, they're just like, well, I can't play my Darksaber, right? Because Hondo just takes the Darksaber. Or what happened on me in my top 8 game, they perilous positioned Rey, and then I swung with Hondo and put their perilous position on one of their units. Because I can do that. It's an upgrade. As long as it's not a pilot. Also, he comes in shielded, so you can swing with him and then move the shield over to the Sentinel units as well. Which is also why I have like triple Cargo Juggernaut in here, because they're also shielded, so you can keep passing more shields around with Hondo. If you get like a Hondo to stick, this deck is just really a pain to go against, because that Hondo can swing harder out of nowhere randomly and just cause a lot of chaos.
Yeah. The other one, so we know why Queel is effective, because Queel just is a free card draw. Well, that's pretty simple in an all blue deck. You should just be running Queel, period. Like, there should be a conversation piece about that, I think.
Yeah, you would think there'd be games where like I would hit Queel 100% of the times, but every single game I always mill that R2D2 every time. It's really frustrating. But yes, Queel's just card draw and restore, which is really, really strong for this kind of stuff. And you could pump him up because he's a 3/4, right?
Yeah. And then you have Luke. We know why Luke's popular. Don't need to go into that. But Bendu,
that's legendary in set 1. But yes, I have Bendu
in there
instead of Obi-Wan.
And Bendu actually works with Hondo, right? Like, technically speaking.
So I chose Bendu over Obi-Wan because it's cool to like get the experience and draw, but Bendu just like 7 health, much better than 6 health, doesn't get one shot by Plo Koon. But 2, like his ability to on attack and the next non-hero, non-villainy card you play is 2 less. You could just play Vigilance for 2. Which is disgusting. Hondo's for 2, Equalize is 1, like Rivals is 4, Cargo Juggernaut's 4, Nebulination's 7. Like, there's a bunch of kind of shenanigans you can do with it. And he actually just like messes with the math enough that you're getting a 2-cost discount really big in this deck.
Yeah.
And he's a Sentinel. And you can put, shields on him with Hondo and Security Complex and all that stuff. It's really funny.
So then kind of the next card sets we have is what I would consider life extending cards, healing shield cards. Like obviously Redemption steals the health, right? Like you can use Redemption either to just Sentinel up, or you can use Redemption to heal yourself. Vigilance gives the shield out, right? You can play it at 4 costs this time, so that's pretty good. Like that's when Rey could do those things, that's pretty dirty.
There's a couple times where like, I'll play Redemption, heal 8, which is, a third of your base health, which is nice. A lot of the times it's like, I just want a giant 6/9 Space Sentinel that you can't deal with. And also being at 6 attack, it is technically the tied for the strongest attack in my main deck. So I kind of wanted to stick around if I can.
I mean, have you ever attached a Hera to it on top of that?
I have.
That would be super fun.
Actually, like, speaking of, Hera's actually like deceptively good in this deck, because a 2/3 restore 1 is just a really good first turn play, regardless if you're using it for the pilot or not. And you can pump it up with Rey, so it becomes like a 3/4 restore 1. But also the extra 3 health on that life, because it's 2/3 for 2 for piloting, which is very efficient. And restore 1. I've pumped up an arc to 3/4 and then put Hera on it. Now it's like a 5/7 space unit that you have to kind of deal with on turn 2. with Restore 2. A lot of the times it's like, well, I'd put it in the Concord Dawn Interceptors. Good luck eating through a Concord Dawn Interceptor that has like 7 through 9 health, depending on how many experience I stack down with Rey. But also, I have put Hera on a cargo juggernaut, and no one expects that coming. Because cargo juggernauts are vehicles.
Yep.
So it's a 6/9 shielded Restore 1. Or Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, which is another card here. We have here. Not a lot of people play Obi-Wan Aether Sprite. My locals do. But honestly, it's just mostly there to kind of mop up in space. Your space is fine. You don't really want to trade in space with this deck, though, because you're trying not to outright kill your units with trades. So Obi-Wan just kind of comes in there and messes enough stuff up that it's kind of a pain for people to deal with, especially if you're going against Vaders.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to kill this and kill one of your low-cost units and then swing in this one and do that repeatedly, and then I could heal it with the Redemption. I can put a shield on it with Security Complex. It gets pretty fun. It's just a solid piece.
Yeah, I actually like that ship quite a bit. I think it's an underrated ship that we haven't seen. I bet you we're going to see quite a bit of it next set, because of the fact that even though it's not a Force unit, it's Obi-Wan's unit, and there's going to be some Obi stuff, that shenanigans I bet that go along with this. So. And
like putting Hera on at Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite is just very difficult for people to deal with, because you're swinging your 6/9 that you can trade up into 8 slots by using its ability.
Yeah,
which is huge.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
you got Vigilance. Obviously, Vigilance is fine. Like Vigilance does Vigilance things. You're generally not milling. You're usually just like giving a shield, and then figure out if you need the life gain or the defeat. But getting the shield off Vigilance is so big in this deck. People don't realize that. Underrated use for Vigilance.
Yeah, and it's actually something I started to do with Kira when I've been playing Kira lately, is I'll just, like, if I don't need the healing, or if I can't defeat a unit, but I have Vigilance and I don't have a lot of else to play, and they're like sitting there dirtling on me, I'll just shield Kira and be like, all right, fine. Like, now you have to use a takedown spell or something to kill her. And
yeah, and I got a myriad of Sentinels that would love the shields, and then also Hondo.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk a little bit about strategies. Let's talk about aggro strategies, right? Like, because aggro is probably the best matchup for this deck, I would almost feel, because
it does pose a lot of aggro decks.
They don't know how to they don't know how to handle it. B, there's this deck has a high amount of restore, and the fact that you could bring Rey out and continually just give free experience tokens out to like almost every one of your units for the most part seems to be a pretty decent effect. And you can just keep shielding Rey and moving Rey's experience token to somebody else, and then
when Hondo's out there, you can just do whatever you want, because Rey's just passing out +1s every time she swings.
Yeah. So what's the high level strategy against aggro with this deck?
So I mean, obviously you want very durable Sentinels like the Village Protectors, right? Because that just slows down any ground, or the Concord Dawn Interceptors. Essentially the same thing, right? You have your cheap 3-cost Sentinels that you can buff up with Rey to make stronger and ground her space. That's huge. Because just slows things down. Obviously, the Security Complex, to give them more shields, to slow more units. They have to 3-for-1 your Sentinel unit, which is the worst thing that aggro can do. Like, they don't want that. And then getting out earlier restore. My cheap units, with the exception of R2D2, have restore for that reason. But just dropping a Yoda really messes with a lot of aggro decks, and you could pump them up to a 3/5 with Rey if you needed to. So you can actually swing and take out a couple units because you just got a lot of health, and then draw a card off of it. What I haven't mentioned, there's actually a fair amount of card draw in this deck between the Queels, the Yodas, and the Red Squadron X-Wings, which helps out a lot. Obviously, card draw is just really good in general, but
yeah, and just it feels better. So
yeah, just having options. But yeah, just earlier restore slows down aggro. You can shield up your stuff, so you wouldn't trade when you trade because you're losing your shield. And then Vigilance obviously really helps with the 5 heal if need be. Yeah, it's mostly it slows down aggro decks enough that most aggro decks that is it's fine. You should be good, and you should hit the Rey flip, and by then you should eventually they'll run out of steam, and you could just restore and continue restoring.
Fair enough. How about strategies for mid-range or control decks? So that's got to be a little bit different, correct?
Yeah. So, like, there's a couple of control cards in here, being like the double Fel, double Equalize, double Rivals, double Nebula Ignition, that are mostly there for mid-range decks, right? If they, drop like a yellow Fett's Fire Spray and then flip Boba Fett into that Fire Spray, Rivals Fall really is a very easy clean out to that like other decks generally just don't have money answers to. Or like, oh, you dropped a really huge threat. You dropped like a Maul, like a green Maul unit, right? And it's like, cool, I can play Fel the Dragon and cleanly, deal with that. Or, yeah, I mean, it's mostly like, this is a mid-range deck. It pairs well in the other mid-range decks because it generally outlasts the mid-range decks, and your units don't typically trade because you have the shields and you can pump them up so you can swing a little bit better or have extra health. So like mid-range, honestly, it's just really, really good in the mid-range. I think it's better in mid-range than it is to aggro, which is kind of strange. But yeah, the Nebula Ignition right at the end is enough to just kind of cripple most mid-range decks at that point.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry as much about it if you have enough shields out and
well, I mean, like Hondo spreads out experience tokens, right? What Rey gives out experience tokens. Those are also upgrades. Or like, hey, my Obi-Wan's Aether Spray, it's got Hera on it. That's an upgrade. Nebula Ignition is like shockingly good in this deck. It is a borderline one-sided board wipe most of the time. There's been plenty of times where I'm just like, well, 4 of my units are upgraded and 1 isn't, and none of yours are, so I'm just gonna lose my arc, I guess, or whatever, and board wipe you. And then they usually can't do anything about that. I know that plays a little bit more into control.
Yeah.
Right? Like, into control, this is like, well, they're not really doing too much into your base, so the restore doesn't really do too much, but so it's more like, let's see when they drop their bigger stuff. So keep on the Fels and the Rivals and the Nebula Ignitions, and then you can always try to mill them out with Vigilance. which is very devastating for a control deck. Eliminating 6 of their potential options is always very strong.
Yeah, they definitely don't like that, especially if you hit those restocks and you're like, sucks for you.
Yeah, usually you can kind of outlast a lot of things, because if they drop like, like a Devastator, which sucks, the green Devastator, right, 10/10 space unit, and you don't have Fel the Dragon or Rivals Fall or Nebula Ignition, if you have like a Luke and like a Queel and a Hera, that's actually like restoring 5, so you're not hemorrhaging nearly as much as it could be bad. Or like, hey, you play Concord Dawn Interceptors and give it a shield and just hope and eventually you'll draw some of your outs, which is why the sideboard exists as well, which we'll get into.
Yeah, speaking of sideboard, let's talk a little bit about the sideboard then.
Yeah. So I wanted to have a little bit more options into like control, because a lot of my meta plays control, right? Which is great. So things like the Zillow Beast is they will have an answer usually if they're playing control, right? They'll have like a Fel or a Rivals, but if they're playing against a raid deck, why would they? They generally don't keep the Fels, right? Because the really nice thing about Bendu is that he's got 4 attack and 7 health, so he can't be takedown or Fel the Dragon.
Yep.
And neither can Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, unless I like attach Hera. So like the only things you can Fel is like Lukes and Redemptions. So most of the time they'll resource it, or if they do keep it on, they're gonna hit it, and then you can like drop a Zillow Beast, and there's just it's hard for control decks to deal with something swinging in for 10 every turn.
Yeah.
But also, like, the extra redemption, the extra healing, the other big-ish unit, Space Sentinel, and the other Felda Dragons mostly there for control. You're not going to out-control a control deck, but that is options you have to try to end the game faster and to clear the path with, like, Felda Dragon if they drop something huge, so your other units can swing in. Yeah, the Perilous position is, honestly, a lot of it is for, like, set 1 Han, which is really nice. When he flips, you can just Perilous position him, so he doesn't get the extra resource. Or, like, if you're playing into, they also have Village Protectors, so the Perilous just outs that real nice. Or, like, for some reason they're playing Lurking Die Phantom, well, it's gone now. It's kind of like extra copies of Equalize.
Yep.
Yeah, Equalize also very nice card. Into Vader, very funny. The couple takedowns are there. A lot of it's for, like, well, Sabine you can kill off with a takedown. So it's a lot of, like, well, is your leader able to die to takedown? Does Kieran, now she has 4 health? Well, that doesn't really do too much. You just play takedown. So it's just an extra option. I usually end up siding it in over Equalizes in, like, mid-range matchups, just because generally they don't go wide enough for Equalize to have, like, that super meaningful impact. So you just swap in a couple takedowns.
Right. Which makes sense because, I mean, like, especially if you're decent into Sabine anyway, like, takedown is not a needed thing for game 1. It's just a nice to have for game 2.
Yep.
And, it's funny because most of the time it forces a Sabine player to actually, what they'll do is they'll play resources before they flip in an effort to try to get you to play resources and not just take down their Sabine. Which is funny because a lot of times I will then play other things and then they'll flip their Sabine. They can't do anything with it. They'll just attack, and the next turn I'm playing takedown anyway. So, like,
they didn't
damage. Oh no,
they didn't flip their Sabine yet. I guess I'll just play, like, Village Protectors and buff it up.
Yep.
So, like, what do you do something about that? But yeah, the confiscates are in there for mostly pilots, although it is really nice into, like the mono red Kylo decks that are just, like, stack the fallen lightsabers on Kylo. Confiscating one of those, it can be pretty big. Or just do generic upgrade removal, right, for 1. Like, it's just versatile, and this deck doesn't have this is like a minor space weakness, right? Which is why Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite's in there. There's not a lot of heavy hitters in space, right? So if you drop, like, a clone squadron, I'm just like, oh well, that might be a little bit hard. That might be for my other control cards, but if they drop, like, a Ruthless Raider, it's like, okay, well, it's just annoying because you can't do much about it. So that's why I wanted, like, the Obi-Wan's Aether Sprites in there. And then if they start putting pilots on there because they're playing, like, a Boba Fett deck, like, I've had, like Bobas or Dengars or even, like, IG-88s on a Ruthless Raider, and that's a pain to deal with because that Raider swings for 7 sometimes. So it's nice and versatile.
Yeah, I like it. Well, I think that that about does it, right, for the deck. I mean, as you can see, this is what the deck is. You can play around with it. We will have a link in the description. We'll make it public for you. We'll give you a link that we won't change the cards in. I've actually stupidly done that a couple of times where I, like, have an unlisted deck I'll use, and then somebody will message me, like, a month later and be like, hey, why is the cards in your deck different than the ones you talked about? And it's like, oh, that's my evolution. Like, sorry, like, I always forget about that.
Yeah, this deck is a little bit unassuming, but it way overperformed. Like, every time I played it, I was like, oh, this is just, like, it's just stonewalling other decks. This is, like, doing a lot better than I expected this deck to do.
Yeah, I think it works very well. I think it's something, like I said, I think it's something you guys should try. Let us know in the comments if you like it, if it's something that kind of fits in your bubble. If not, yeah, we'll have another deck tech, I'm sure, with something else. We're always cooking up weird things, and, like, I really like this. The set isn't solved, in my opinion. Like, the meta is super wide open right now, So like everything's kind of fun, and it gives you the opportunity now to play some of the decks that you would never, like, oh, I don't think this sounds good. Well, play it. You never know. Could be really good. But
let me know if you decide to go with Colossus.
Yeah, tell us if you go with Colossus and why you need
that extra 10 health. Yeah. What happened in your life?
Yeah. Though you do have the card draw, right? Though, so like, I mean, like, it is kind of like the Persian.
I did build this with Colossus in mind for a while, so that's why like the Red Squadron X-wings are there.
So,
but also they just have to be decent space units.
Hey, you gotta have something to kill things.
So, I try.
All right. Well, thank you, Alex, for joining us tonight and sharing your deck with us. We look forward to all the other decks. With that being said, thank you all. And make sure you check out our regular podcast that we have. Links will be in the description. You can follow us. We release at least a main episode every week, plus all of our segments I release separately for anybody that doesn't want to watch 2-hour podcasts.
Reasonable.
Thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the Flippity Flop.
Yeah, thanks for listening.